Remember to cite the source if you rely on information from web search results. Use the tag to attribute information to specific documents and sentences. Commander Tyke stood on the bridge of the Stellar Seeker, his tall figure silhouetted against the vast darkness of space. The blue-green planet filled the main view screen, rotating slowly on its axis. Earth, as the natives called it. His four-fingered hand tapped thoughtfully against the control panel as he studied the readings. "Are you certain about these energy signatures, Officer June?" he asked. June nodded, his pale features serious as he adjusted the scanner. "Yes, Commander. The readings are unlike anything in our database. They don't match any known technology or natural phenomenon. The Galactic Council had sent them to this unremarkable solar system after automated probes detected unusual energy patterns. What they found was more puzzling than expected. A planet of seemingly primitive beings who had barely reached their own moon, yet somehow produced energy signatures that defied explanation. "Bring us into standard orbit," Tyke ordered. "And prepare the observation team." The massive ship slid silently into Earth's orbit, cloaking systems engaged to prevent detection by the planet's rudimentary scanning technology. For 3 days they watched and recorded, gathering data on the species that called themselves humans. Officer Song, the youngest crew member and newest addition to the science team, spent hours analyzing the biological scans, while the others focused on technology and resources. Something about the neural patterns of these humans captured her attention. "Commander," she said on the 4th day, approaching Tyke with her findings. "I've noticed something unusual in the human brain scans." Tyke barely glanced at her datapad. "Biological curiosities can wait, Officer Song. We're here to assess potential, threats, and resources." "But, sir," she persisted, "their brains show signs of—" "That will be all, officer," he interrupted firmly. "Prepare the contact team. The Council wants diplomatic relations established immediately." Song returned to her station, still troubled by what she'd seen. The humans showed neural activity in regions that shouldn't be active in such a primitive species. It was almost as if parts of their brains were waiting to be awakened. The next morning, Tyke led a team of 5 to the planet's surface, landing in an area humans called Switzerland. Global leaders had been secretly contacted and assembled to meet the visitors from the stars. As they stepped from their craft onto Earth soil, Tyke felt a strange sensation, a subtle vibration that seemed to run through his body. He dismissed it as an effect of the planet's gravity or atmospheric composition. The human leaders waited nervously, surrounded by security forces who looked both awed and frightened. Tyke activated his universal translator and stepped forward. "People of Earth," he began. "I am Commander Tyke of the Galactic Council. We come in peace to welcome you to the greater community of spacefaring civilizations." The humans responded, with a mixture of wonder and suspicion. Their questions were basic, their concerns predictable. Tyke found himself growing bored with their simple understanding of the universe. "Your species has potential," he told them condescendingly. "In a few hundred years, you may be ready for limited interstellar travel." What Tyke failed to notice was Officer Song, who had joined the landing party at the last minute. While he conducted formal discussions with Earth's leaders, she quietly scanned the humans present in the room. Her eyes widened at the readings. 1. Human diplomat, a quiet man named Park, showed particularly unusual patterns. When Song accidentally dropped her scanning device, Park caught it before it hit the ground, moving with speed that seemed impossible. More surprising was that the device, which should have been incomprehensible to humans, briefly lit up at his touch. "Fascinating," Song whispered. Later, as the alien delegation prepared to return to their ship, Park approached Song. "Your technology," he said softly. "It responds to thought patterns, doesn't it?" Song stared at him in shock. "How could you possibly know that?" Park smiled. "I don't know, I just felt it." Before Song could respond, Tyke called for the team to board their craft. As they lifted off, Song looked back at the diminishing figure of Park on the ground below. "Commander," she said, "I think we're making a serious mistake if we underestimate these humans." Tyke laughed. "They're barely out of their Stone Age, officer. The Council only wants diplomatic relations because this sector needs stabilization." There's something about them, Song insisted, something hidden just below the surface. As the Stellar Seeker prepared to establish a permanent observation post in Earth orbit, none of them realized that their arrival had already begun to trigger changes in the humans below, awakening abilities that had lain dormant for millennia, waiting for the right moment to emerge. 3 months passed since first contact. Researcher Han adjusted her environmental suit as she walked through the busy streets of Seoul. Unlike Commander Tyke and the other senior officers who preferred to observe humans from a distance, Han believed in direct interaction. The Galactic Council had established research outposts in major cities across Earth, disguised as cultural exchange centers. Han entered Seoul National University, where she had been observing classes for weeks. Today, she sat at the back of a physics lecture hall, her holographic disguise making her appear human. Professor Park, the same man who had caught Officer Song's attention during first contact, stood at the front of the room explaining quantum theory. He explains concepts that took our civilization centuries to discover, Han recorded in her personal log. Yet he does it with such natural understanding. It's as if humans intuitively grasp ideas that we had to learn through pure mathematics. After class, Han approached Professor Park. "Your lecture was fascinating," she said. "I'm particularly interested in your thoughts on energy transference." Park smiled. "You're not really a visiting professor from America, are you?" Han froze. Her disguise was perfect. There should be no way for him to know. "Don't worry," Park continued quietly. "I haven't told anyone. I just sense things about people. Always have. It got stronger after your ships arrived." Back at the research outpost, Director Day dismissed Han's report. "Humans are clever animals, nothing more," he said, studying the holograms of Earth cities floating above his desk. "The Council wants answers about these energy fluctuations, not stories about intuitive professors." "But sir," Han persisted, "there's something unique about how humans process information. They make connections we miss, and Professor Park somehow saw through my disguise." Day waved his hand dismissively. "Environmental suit malfunction, obviously. Run diagnostics." That evening, against protocol, Han invited Professor Park to her private lab. She had set up experiments to test human problem-solving abilities, but had something more specific in mind today. "These are energy field detectors," she explained, showing him small silver devices. "They measure cosmic background radiation that most species cannot detect without technology." Park held one in his palm. The device immediately lit up, its readings off the scale. "That's impossible," Han whispered. "They should only activate when calibrated specifically to..." "To what?" Park asked. "To brainwave patterns," Han admitted. "Professor, would you consent to a scan?" "I have a theory." Park agreed. Han placed a delicate circlet of metal on his head and activated her scanner. As she suspected, his neural patterns showed activity in regions that should have been dormant in any normal species. "Focus your thoughts on the device in your hand," Han instructed. "Imagine energy flowing from your mind to it." The small silver detector began to pulse with light, growing brighter as Park concentrated. Suddenly, all the equipment in the lab flickered, and for a moment Han saw something like a faint aura surrounding the human professor. "What am I doing?" Park asked, amazed and slightly afraid. "Something that should be impossible," Han replied. "You're directly manipulating energy fields without technological assistance." Meanwhile, across the city, other humans were beginning to experience strange phenomena. A young girl found she could sense emotions of people around her. A firefighter instinctively knew where victims were trapped in a burning building. Small but significant changes were occurring in human abilities worldwide. At the main alien command center, Director Day prepared his report to the Galactic Council. Earth continues to show anomalous energy readings, but the human species poses no significant threat. They remain technologically inferior and unaware of their place in the galactic hierarchy. Officer Song, who had remained skeptical of Day's dismissive attitude, intercepted Han's data transmission about Professor Park. Without authorization, She began cross-referencing the findings with historical records. What she found disturbed her deeply. There are classified records of previous encounters with humans, she told Han over a secure channel. Centuries ago. The data was buried by council order. Why would they hide that? Han asked. I don't know, Song replied. But Director Day has requested military vessels to enter Earth's solar system, citing security concerns. I think something bigger is happening here. That night, as Han worked late in her lab with Professor Park, they achieved a breakthrough. Under controlled conditions, Park was able to consciously manipulate the energy field around a small object, making it float briefly above the table. How is this possible? Park asked, amazed at what he had done. I think, Han said slowly, that humans evolved in a unique cosmic environment. Earth sits at a convergence of energy currents we've never seen before. Your species has been absorbing this energy for millennia, but never realized what you could do with it. Outside the lab window, more ships entered Earth's atmosphere. The Galactic Council had taken a sudden, intense interest in humanity, and Han feared they didn't have much time left to discover the full truth. Alarms blared throughout the research station as red emergency lights flashed in the corridors. Han rushed through the crowded hallway, clutching her datapad against her chest. The station, hidden beneath an abandoned industrial complex outside Seoul, had become the center of a crisis. What's happening? She asked, grabbing the arm of a passing technician. Power core malfunction, the technician replied. Director Day has called an emergency meeting. Han hurried to the central chamber where senior alien researchers had gathered around a large holographic display. The image showed a pulsing sphere of energy, the station's power core, with dangerous fluctuations rippling across its surface. The containment field is failing, Director Day announced grimly. If it collapses completely, the resulting explosion will destroy everything within a 50-kilometer radius. Commander Tyke, who had returned from orbit when the crisis began, studied the readouts. How long do we have? 2 hours, maybe less, replied the chief engineer. We've tried every standard procedure. Han stepped forward. Sir, I believe my research might help us understand what's happening. Director Day turned to her with a scowl. This is hardly the time for your human studies, researcher Han. The core's energy signature matches the patterns I've been detecting in humans, Han insisted. Something about Earth's unique energy field is interfering with our technology. Before Day could dismiss her again, the doors slid open. Professor Park entered, accompanied by Officer Song. What is this human doing here? Day demanded. This is a secure facility. I brought him, Song said firmly. Han's research confirms what I found in the classified archives. Humans have abilities we've been ignoring. Commander Tyke's eyes narrowed. What classified archives? Song projected a file onto the main screen. 300 years ago, a Council exploration ship crash-landed on Earth. The survivors recorded observations about humans who helped them. Humans who displayed unusual abilities when exposed to the ship's damaged power core. The room fell, silent as ancient images appeared. Primitive drawings and early photographs showing humans performing seemingly impossible feats. Healing injuries without medicine, sensing dangers before they occurred, communicating without speaking. The Council buried this information. Song continued. They were afraid. Director Day laughed bitterly. Afraid of creatures who still fight wars over territorial boundaries? Absurd. The power dimmed suddenly as another alarm sounded. The chief engineer looked up in panic. The containment field just dropped to 20%. We need to evacuate immediately. There's no time, Tyke said. Even our fastest ships can't evacuate everyone in the area before the core explodes. Professor Park stepped forward, studying the holographic display with intense concentration. Your power core, he said quietly. It's similar to the devices in Han's lab, isn't it? Just much larger? Han nodded. Yes, the same basic principles. Let me try something, Park said. He turned to Han. You said humans have been absorbing Earth's unique energy field for generations. What if we could redirect that energy to stabilize the core? Director Day scoffed. Preposterous. But Commander Tyke raised his hand for silence. We have nothing to lose. Proceed. Under Han's guidance, Park approached the sealed chamber containing the power core. Through a transparent barrier, they could see the swirling mass of energy, pulsing with increasing instability. I need to focus, Park said, placing his hands against the barrier, just like in the lab. Han monitored the readings as Park closed his eyes. At first, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the wild fluctuations in the core began to smooth out. The engineers watched in disbelief as containment readings stabilized. Impossible, whispered Director Day. Park's face showed intense concentration, sweat beading on his forehead. The core responded to his presence, its chaotic energy patterns aligning with his brainwaves. After 10 tense minutes, the alarms fell silent. He's done it, Han announced. Containment at 90% and rising. When Park finally stepped away from the barrier, he staggered with exhaustion. Han helped him to a chair as the alien scientists stared in stunned silence. This changes everything, Commander Tyke said finally. If one untrained human can do this. There's more, Song said. She displayed another classified file. The Council's real reason for making contact wasn't scientific curiosity. Our civilization has been experiencing power shortages as our traditional energy sources deplete. When probes detected Earth's unique energy field, we came looking for a new power source, Tyke finished. But instead we found something far more valuable. Han looked at the exhausted Professor Park. Humans don't just live in this energy field. They're part of it. They can sense it, shape it, use it in ways we never imagined possible. Outside, the research station, more council ships arrived in Earth's atmosphere, but now their presence took on a more ominous meaning. Were they really here to welcome Earth into the galactic community, or to control what might be the greatest power source ever discovered? The sky above Seoul darkened as massive ships moved into position. Not just the scientific vessels that had been present since first contact, but larger, more angular craft with visible weapon systems. Humans around the world watched their skies fill with alien vessels, fear spreading faster than official reassurances could contain it. Inside the United Nations emergency session in New York, representatives from Earth's nations gathered with alien diplomats. The atmosphere was tense, the human delegates casting suspicious glances at the aliens among them. Han stood next to Professor Park at the back of the Great Hall. She had defied Director Day's orders by bringing Park to this meeting, but after what had happened at the research station, she knew humans needed to understand the truth. The Galactic Council claims these military vessels are here for our protection, the Secretary General was saying, but we demand transparency about your intentions. Admiral Gill, commander of the newly arrived fleet, stepped forward. His ceremonial armor gleamed under the lights, making him look more imposing than the diplomatic representatives humans had grown accustomed to. Earth sits in a strategically valuable position, Admiral Gill stated bluntly. The energy field surrounding your planet is a resource of immense importance. The Council has determined that more direct oversight is necessary. You mean occupation? A human delegate shot back. Admiral Gill's expression didn't change. We prefer to call it protective status. Restrictions on space travel, controlled development of technology, and council representatives in all major governments. These measures ensure galactic security. Murmurs of anger spread through the human delegation. Commander Take, who had been working with Earth scientists since first contact, looked uncomfortable, but remained silent. This is wrong, Han whispered to Park. We need to show them. Park nodded, and they began moving toward the central floor. Officer Song intercepted them, her expression urgent. The Council has classified your research, she told Han. Admiral Gill has orders to contain what they're calling the human anomaly at any cost. They're afraid of us, Park realized, of what we might become. Han made a quick decision. We need to gather the others. Throughout the previous week, Han and Park had been working with a small group of humans who showed particularly strong abilities to sense and manipulate energy fields. They had been training in secret, away from Director Day's suspicious eyes. Admiral Gill continued outlining the Council's plans for Earth, each restriction more severe than the last. Han sent an urgent message to their group. 20 minutes later, as the debate grew more heated, the doors to the chamber opened. 7 humans entered, led by a young woman named Min who had shown remarkable talent. They took positions around the room, unnoticed by most delegates who were focused on the increasingly hostile exchange between Admiral Gill and Earth's representatives. Han gave Min a subtle nod. Min closed her eyes and the other 6 did the same. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then delegates gasped as their papers began to flutter without wind. Electronic devices flickered. Admiral Gill's translator malfunctioned mid-sentence. "What is happening?" he demanded. The answer came in the form of a visible energy field that suddenly manifested around the 7 humans. Unlike the chaotic energy of the failing power core, this was controlled, purposeful. It expanded slowly until it filled the chamber, a soft blue light that touched everyone present. "This is what you fear," Park said, stepping forward into the center of the room. "This is why you came to Earth. Not just for the energy that surrounds our planet, but because you discovered what humans can do with it." Through the energy field, every person in the room, human and alien alike, could feel what the others felt. Fear, anger, hope, determination. Emotions flowed between them, creating understanding that transcended language. Admiral Gill staggered slightly, overwhelmed by the sensation. "Impossible," he whispered. "No species can manipulate the fundamental energy of the universe without technology." "And yet, here we are," Park replied calmly. "We don't want conflict. We want partnership, but we will not accept occupation." The energy field intensified, focusing on the large view screen at the front of the chamber. Images appeared, not just of Earth's cities and natural wonders, but of human achievements throughout history. Problem-solving, adaptation, creativity, in the face of seemingly impossible odds. "You came seeking resources," Han said, addressing the alien representatives. "Instead, you found something far more valuable, a species that sees the universe differently than yours." Commander Tyke, finally, stepped forward. "Admiral, I've studied humans for months now. They're not a threat to be contained. They're potential allies with unique abilities our civilization has never encountered." For a long moment, Admiral Gill stood motionless. The Council had not prepared him for this demonstration of power. His orders were clear: secure Earth and its energy field for the Council's use. But those orders had not accounted for humans who could consciously control that energy. "The Council must be informed of these developments," he said finally. "Until then, the fleet will withdraw to a standard orbital position." As the energy field slowly dissipated, humans and aliens looked at each other with new understanding. The confrontation had ended without violence, but Earth's future in the galactic community remained uncertain. 6 months after the confrontation at the United Nations, Earth looked different. The massive alien ships no longer hovered menacingly above major cities, but maintained a respectful distance in orbit. In their place, smaller vessels made regular trips between Earth and the fleet, carrying diplomats, scientists, and increasingly, students from both worlds. At what was once the alien research station outside Seoul, now stood the Earth Galactic Institute. The building had been redesigned. Its once secretive underground chambers opened and expanded into bright, collaborative spaces where humans and aliens worked side by side. Han walked through the main laboratory where Professor Park was teaching, a mixed group of human and alien students. Park had become something of a celebrity, both on Earth and among the Galactic Council species. His ability to manipulate energy fields without technology had shattered centuries of scientific understanding. "The key is not forcing the energy to obey," Park explained to his students, a small ball of light hovering between his palms. "It's about becoming part of the flow, letting it move through you and around you." A young alien student raised his hand, "But our species cannot sense the energy fields without devices." "Not yet," Park smiled. "But we're finding that many species have dormant abilities. They just need to be awakened." Han smiled as she watched several alien students close their eyes, focusing intently. Most showed no immediate results, but one young alien gasped as a tiny spark flickered briefly between her fingers. "I felt it," she exclaimed. In another wing of the Institute, Director Day, who had once dismissed humans as clever animals, now worked alongside Earth's top engineers. His expertise combined with human intuition had already produced breakthroughs in energy technology that both worlds were implementing. "I was wrong about humans," he had admitted to Han shortly after the confrontation. "My scientific training taught me to trust only what could be measured and replicated. I failed to see what was right in front of me." Han's communication device chimed. Commander Tyke, now Ambassador Tyke, appeared on the screen. "The council representatives have arrived. For the ceremony," he informed her. "They're asking for you and Professor Park." Han nodded. "We'll be there soon." The ceremony was being held in a newly constructed dome at the center of the Institute. Its transparent ceiling revealed the sky above, where stars were just becoming visible in the late afternoon. Inside, hundreds of humans and aliens gathered around a central platform. Park stood beside Han as 3 council elders teleported into the chamber. These ancient beings rarely left their homeworld, and their presence on Earth marked the historic importance of the occasion. People of Earth and honored representatives of galactic species, the lead elder began, voice amplified throughout the dome. "Today we formalize what many thought impossible, the recognition of Earth as a sovereign partner of the Galactic Council, with all rights and protections therein." Applause rippled through the crowd. 6 months of intense negotiations had led to this moment. Earth would not be merely another member world subject to Council authority. Its unique status acknowledged the special abilities of humans and their right to develop those abilities independently. Furthermore, the elder continued, "The first human galactic research collective is hereby established, with full funding and support from all Council worlds." Min stepped forward, now the head of human training programs, and accepted the formal charter. In the months since the confrontation, she had helped hundreds of humans discover and develop their latent abilities. Schools around the world now included energy awareness in their basic curriculum. After the ceremony, Han found herself standing alone with Ambassador Tyek on a balcony overlooking the Institute grounds. "Did you ever imagine it would turn out this way?" she asked him. Tyke shook his head. "When we first arrived, I saw Earth as just another primitive world to study and eventually bring under Council influence. I was so certain of our superiority." Below them, groups of human and alien children played together in the garden, some showing off small tricks with energy fields, while others watched in delight. "The Council feared what humans might become," Tyke continued. "That fear almost led us to make a terrible mistake. If you and Professor Park hadn't shown us another way." "Humans have a saying," Han replied. "The greatest discoveries often come by accident. We came looking for a power source and found partners instead." A small group approached the balcony, Professor Park with Council scientists and human engineers. They were excitedly discussing a new project to create sustainable energy systems that combined alien technology with human intuitive manipulation of energy fields. "The first joint colony ships will launch next year," Park told Han and Tyke as they joined the group, humans and Council species together, exploring the galaxy as equals. As night fell completely, the stars shone brighter above the Institute. On the horizon, lights from Sol blended with the soft glow of alien vessels in the sky. Earth was taking its first steps into a much larger universe, bringing its unique perspective and abilities to solve problems that had challenged other species for millennia. A new era had truly begun,